Hey everybody, I'm here today with Silvia Soare, who is the founder and owner of Ludus Pax Studios, he has created Rise of the Village Hero and some other titles. How's it going today, Silvia?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, thank you. I'm
Yeah,
very good.
awesome. Cool. Well, I'm going to jump right into the questions here. In 2020, you went to school at the university. Well, you started another school, but you ended at the University of West Scotland
Yeah.
to seek an education in game development. Before that, you worked in banking and insurance. Had you always known that you eventually wanted to make games before going to school, or is that something that you just kind of, stumbled upon while you were working in those other, I guess, fields or industries?
So first of all, thanks so much, obviously, for the opportunity. So,
Oh,
yeah, well, what happened is when I was in Romania ages ago, it feels like it. So I was basically playing games on my old computer and was playing this Anno game. I think it was like Anno. I can't remember what version it was. And I always thought to myself, I was like, this would be so cool if I could make games of my own like this. But at the time, there was no sort of like degree or course that I could take on in Romania. So it was always like mostly focused on like programming or software development and stuff like that. So I never had the chance or the opportunity to go to a course. And basically, when I went to university, I decided, oh, I'll just do programming because that's the closest thing I could get. So I did programming and maths, then moved to the UK, and kind of ended up in finance, yeah, and working in insurance and stuff. So I didn't really enjoy it. Then the pandemic came around, and I was like, it's time to just do what I want to do. No more messing around. And then just because I'm not getting any younger. So I went to college during the pandemic. We were all in the house. I didn't know how it was gonna be. I thought like I'll give it a chance in college, and I loved it. And then yeah, then I just kind of continue with it. And the idea of making games is kind of always been there, but it's just kind of taken hold of me more and more recently. Obviously, since I went to uni.
cool. In what ways did your higher education in development prepare you for establishing your studio?
So when I went to university, the thing at the time is I didn't realize how much confidence it actually gave me. At the time when I was doing these courses, it was just kind of like a building block, but I didn't realize at the time until I was actually doing it. So once I finished and I just like, they kept telling us like, look, you need to present, you need to show us your work and you need to talk about it. You need to explain it. How did you achieve it? Why did you go for this? And I always found it kind of like, like, oh, why do I really have to do this? I just want to make games. I don't want to write a game design document and all this stuff. And I just want to make a game. And then later on, once you graduate, you realize, okay, so when I go to pitch a game to a publisher, or something, I need to be able to be comfortable to explain my ideas and talk about things and to talk to people. And I need to literally sell yourself, not, to a certain extent, just to showcase your ideas. So yeah, that's how uni really prepared me for that. It was just those presentations through the courses that I had to do and that sort of participation with other people in a group, and then you have to kind of manage like everybody's expectations and collaborate with people. It was really good skills to learn.
Awesome. Um, so at your studio, which is Ludus Pax Studio, you're the only developer. How is it juggling all of the different aspects of a studio and game development on your own? So, every facet of game design you kind of have to do yourself.
Yeah, so it's not easy. It is quite challenging. I'm not gonna lie. So the ideal scenario here would be that I would receive funding and I would hire uh, uh, basically a designer, so like a
Mhm.
3D artist, and perhaps an additional programmer. Although if I could hire two artists, that would probably be enough. But at the moment, there's not enough funding for that, so I'm basically all myself. How do I juggle it? Basically, I just kind of keep in mind, okay, so what do I want to achieve? So obviously, I have released Rise the Village Hero, so I want to continue to. I promise to people that I'm gonna finish it, so I'm just gonna continue to work on it until it's done. So kind of every day I wake up and I have like a Trello board of all the tasks. Obviously, I want to release more games, so that's where my other games are coming into play. And then I have like again, it's the same process like I learned in university. I kind of have like a notebook full of ideas, kind of like this, and basically just write everything down. And if I like something and I want to work on it, I just kind of write a game design document and then kind of focus on like, okay, what art could I do? What would it work well for this game? My style is mostly low poly, so that's what I work on. So that works for me. So everything from programming, which is my forte, I love programming, art, I mostly do at the moment a lot of asset packs. So like I use a lot of assets that I bought, nothing free, just stuff that I bought. And I just basically look to see what would work well with the sort of art that I'm going for. And then music, same, everything really is just me. And it's kind of try to balance everything. It doesn't always work out, to be honest. It sometimes ends up in a bit of a like really busy, kind of crazy. But yeah, it's just I love it. I love creating games and it just seems to work out.
That notebook that you mentioned, do you write down ideas for new games or ideas to update current games you're working on, or is it like a combination of both?
I'd say it's a combination of majority is just working on the current project. I'm trying not to overwhelm myself. But if I have an idea, I'll usually just put it like in a notepad and
Yeah.
just write like a quick little thing and just say like, for example, the other day I had an idea that I wanted to make this pixel art corner store game where you're basically just a guy who basically opens this corner store every day and looks after his shop. So any ideas I get, I usually write them in there, and then just if I find the time, I'll just do a quick prototype of it, see kind of how it looks. But majority of it is just ideas focusing around the games that I have at the moment, like the main ones.
Awesome. So I think this ties in to the the last question I asked, but what is the hardest aspect, not juggling everything, but running a studio and developing games on your own? You know, is it the time constraints? Or do you particularly like doing one thing more than the other? Is it kind of figuring out what to do next? What's the hardest part of doing everything on your own?
So the hardest part is to go out there and talk about your games and talk about your studio and talk about what you're doing. That's for me the hardest part. I love to make games, that's okay, but unfortunately, if I stay in my room and just make games, nobody will know anything about me. So I have to go obviously network and get out of my comfort zone and talk to other people and try to explain to them, look, this is what I can do and stuff like that. The other part is obviously seeking finance and seeking funding and grants. That can be also challenging, especially in the current environment. But it's something that you do need to do because if you get a grant, then it takes a lot of pressure off you as a developer and as a director, and it gives you more flexing room. So you don't need to be stressed about how many sales do you get on Steam or so on and so forth. So yeah, I'd say that the director part is probably the most challenging part. Um, rather than basically like the development side of things.
You
That's what
meant
I'd say. Yeah.
Gotcha. You mentioned like putting the games out there and kind of networking. For me, that's kind of like I have to do all of that mostly on LinkedIn because, you know, I live in a college town that doesn't have a lot of big or indie developers or even big developers. I know that you're, you know, in Scotland. Is it the same there? Do you have any like, you know, local people that you can network it with, or do you have to do most of that online, especially with marketing your game?
So for me, majority of the things basically, we do have like a Glasgow Discord for game developers. So we do kind of we had like the Scottish Games Frenzy just recently, actually the other week. So that was really exciting where we kind of all met together and showcased our games, and it was mostly like a networking event rather than a public event. But the one thing that says a lot of stuff in Scotland is kind of unfortunately on the smaller side. a lot of stuff is down south in England, and a lot of events are there. So you do have to kind of like travel as well. Um, I haven't done a lot of that, but I'm presuming that probably next year I'll be more focused on that. Um, but we live in an era right now where we're really lucky because you can post something online and hopefully goes viral. And then you get like all these people who could follow you potentially, follow your journey, you take them with you. So it is a quite different. But yeah, in Scotland we do have like a couple of game developer Discord groups. They're quite active, and we also have Scottish Games Network where again, Brian Bangle is a guy who's leading it. So there's more things happening, but I'd say a lot of focus, funding, everything goes down south primarily because those
Gotcha.
are kind of where the bigger studios are.
Cool. You answered my next question kind of on your own earlier. It was, do you have any plans to bring others into the studio, or do you plan to continue working on your own? You mentioned that if you got funding, you'd want to bring in a couple other people. Do you have perhaps like a time frame for when you'd like to bring other people in, or what are your thoughts on trying to bring others into the fold?
So my main thing about it is that I don't like to promise people, look, come over and I'll promise you 10% of the next game or whatever it is. Because the way I see it is 10% of nothing is still nothing. Because there's no way for me to predict how a certain game I go or so on. So I need to have funding to pay them for their time. So for that, obviously, it's one or two things. If a game does particularly really well in my release, and then I can afford to pay their wages, awesome. If there's funding that obviously comes from a grant or something, then I'd look to do that. I'm always on the lookout for it. I'd say potentially anything between, the next 1 to 3 years potentially could happen, but it just really depends on funding availability. The more games I release, chances are that the more funds will become. No studio can support itself with one game, so I just need to release more games.
Yeah. So your one game, your first commercial release was Rise of the Village Hero, which you
Mhm.
released in January. How long had you worked on the game prior to release?
So it started as a university project. So I worked on it in third year of university. It was an assessment. So my lecturer at the time said, you guys can just build any games you want. So I kind of always wanted to do an RPG. And when I told him that, he said, well, listen, you don't have a lot of time. I don't think that's a good idea. You should probably try something smaller, like a horror or something. I said, no, I'll give it a shot. I'll see, what I can do. So I basically tried it, built a basic version of it, and I really liked working on it. And then it just kind of went from there. So I'd say it's 2020. So it's since now, basically, but it's really kind of took arms and legs since I released it. That's kind of when I started like working a lot more on it. Um, so yeah.
Sure. So when developing Rise of the Village Hero, did you find yourself excelling in some areas of development and having a harder time in others? If so, how'd you kind of get around those difficulties?
So the thing that I struggle probably with the most is the art. So obviously, like I started trying to make my own assets, so like 3D assets and stuff. But because I'm more of a programmer, I kind of really struggled to make them look really good. So I did try that for a while, but then I realized that's just not my forte and it's going to take me a lot longer to make something that looks just as good. So I applied, obviously, I went and got asset packs and I used those uh, with a combination of some smaller props like trees and stuff that I could build and it wouldn't have a significant impact. And the other thing is scope. I really struggled with scope in the beginning. I just wanted to add more stuff, more stuff, more stuff. And now I find it easier to realize that I just want to finish the game. So I want to get it across the finish line and say this is 1.0. And I think that comes with experience. The more I do it, I just realize that okay, so like no game is really gonna be perfect, especially now when you have your first game. Um, but the more you work, the better you get, and you just kind of have to limit your scope and just know this is what I want to add, and this is it. I'm not adding any more, regardless of like unless it's obviously like a bug or a feedback that really could improve gameplay. It's just not going in anymore. So that yeah, managing scope is also another toughie.
So it's about like knowing your limits,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
yeah.
Like I had the cinematic, for example, just to give an example, I had the cinematic experience like at the beginning when you started, and I made a mistake of recording the voice and stuff, and I tried to make it with Audacity to make it sound older, and then people didn't misunderstood it and thought it was AI, but it wasn't. It was just my
Oh,
older
really?
voice. So they were giving me feedback like, "Listen, this sounds like an AI. I can barely understand." So I was like, "Okay, look, just I'll no more cinematics. I'm not like a big studio, so I'll just keep it small.
That's unfortunate. What were some you said you wanted to make an RPG and that's how you started Rise of the Village Hero. What were some inspirations for the game? Were there inspirations from other RPG titles, or is there something that you particularly enjoyed and said that, I want this aspect of this game in Rise of the Village Hero, stuff like that?
Yeah. So uh basically Diablo 1 was the first game RPG kind of style that I played, and I really enjoyed it. It was in an internet cafe in Romania. So I just really loved the gameplay, and the only thing I hated was that you couldn't run in that game. So you just kind of walked really kind of a little bit fast, but it wasn't no running. So I was like, okay, I'll definitely have some form of running in my game. But yeah, is inspired heavily from classic RPGs. So I'd say Torchlight 1, maybe a little bit of 2, but not as advanced. And then certainly Diablo. It was a big inspiration for me. People will give me huge compliments, like saying that it's like a non-MMO RPG RuneScape style. And I have never played RuneScape before, so I wouldn't know, but I did Google RuneScape after people started writing about it. And I was like, wow, really? Like, this is an awesome compliment. I mean, I'll take it, but I'll certainly not put it in my marketing card, like play my non-MMO RuneScape adventure because yeah, it's like too much of a compliment. I don't want to like be yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's like you don't want to like compare yourself to
yeah.
them because you don't want to like give off the wrong impression or anything.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was I guess another challenge as well. When I market, I always try to keep it as like as small as possible. So I always say small indie RPG. I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Like if you buy this game, it's not gonna be Baldur's Gate 4, you know. So yeah.
So, what was your absolute favorite part of working on Rise of the Village Hero?
My favorite part is just kind of getting, if I'm being honest, is now more than in the beginning. So in the beginning, I didn't really knew like an end bit to it. I was kind of just building upon it, like these building blocks and stuff. And now I'm approaching chapter 3, and I have like the story all lined out, and I know kind of how things are gonna go. And now it's becoming more of like a really good thing that I like to work on. And the actual funny thing is, I've been testing this game now for like hours and hours. So if I didn't enjoy playing the game, I would probably have hated it by now. But I still like every time I click new game in the menu, I still have fun like creating, like adding those little stats. And so yeah, my favorite part at the moment is just now like as I add more story elements to the game, as I add more sort of NPCs and kind of link the quest together with previous quests and decisions you made in the game. These are kind of my fun moments. Yeah, because it feels like I can see it coming all together.
Yeah, that's good. Being able to just like, you know, I feel like game development is an art in and of itself, and usually like artists can be musicians, filmmakers, whatever, game developers. I feel like if they're exposed to something too much, they start to like hate what they made.
Yeah,
Like a classic example is like Nirvana hating Smells Like Teen Spirit. Uh, but I'm glad that you've been able to consistently enjoy what you've been working on. That's good.
yeah.
Um, You
I mean,
recently,
sorry to interrupt, but
no, no, you're good.
if the game had been in development for another 3 years, the answer might have been different. But but for now, I'm still really enjoying it. Sorry to.
That's good. No, you're good. You recently just released an idle clicker game on itch.io called Rusty Hammer, which ties into the Rise of the Village Hero, because you play as an NPC from Rise of the Village Hero. So you're working on updating Rise of the Village Hero and Rusty Hammer, and then you've got Path to Serenity and kind of like pre-production. You got a Kickstarter for it. How is it kind of balancing all three of those? I know that you're probably focusing mostly on Rise of the Village Hero, but you're still kind of working on all three. How's it been balancing all three of those kind of on your own?
So it has been a little bit challenging, I'm not gonna lie, but what I'm focusing at the moment is basically like 60% of my time is Rise the Village Hero, because obviously it's my release game, and I also had people who bought it, and I want to not let them down. So I've always made sure that I release 1 to 2 updates per month for that. So, and then after that, I kind of Rusty Hammer is something that my son basically loves to play idle clickers. So I'll make one for him, and I kind of always want to make something like an idle clicker. So I made it, and he can just play with just clicking the mouse button. So and then with that, I just kind of add 2 or 3 upgrades as I go along. So it's not really too demanding, but Paths to Serenity is quite a bit more. So I do need to add more work to it. The way I balance it is I just use like my Trello board and just kind of try to put like a few tasks like each day. And if I
Mhm.
do like those tasks, then I just give up, like that's it. And then I just focus on Rise the Village Hero after that. And just it's been kind of like some journey, because I was looking at the other week, and I announced something about it in May, and now it's November, so I have a Steam page. So I was kind of proud. I was like, wow, it's been a journey, so it's pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell us about, path, sorry. I put paths and paths. So I was like, is it path or path? What can you tell us about Path to Serenity? I've seen a couple, you know, you got some YouTube trailers, and then, I've seen images. I don't even know what to call it. It looks like a life simulator. I don't know. What
Yeah.
can you tell us about the game?
So the idea originally came to me is basically just from my previous past experiences. Um, I worked in a lot of jobs where, um, insurance, finance, where you're not really, especially call center work as well. I wasn't really like important really, but the more I came to work, the more demanding these people, managers and so on, were of me and my time. So I came up with the idea that I would like to put that into a game and make a story that has a similar, because I'm sure that a lot of people have gone through those stages where you feel like you're not really as important. You're just kind of a number, and you're losing so much time and so much effort you're putting into this, and you're always scared. Oh, are they going to fire me? Am I going to lose my livelihood? What's going to happen? And all this stuff. So I decided to make a game about it, and I basically put into Paths to Serenity. And it's really just that kind of story about a character who's going through those difficulties of like missing so many moments away from his family just to be into work and everything else. And really, as he goes on and goes through all those stages, he just realizes that at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like in the end, he could just lose his job and everything, but he's missed so many important moments with his family, missing Christmas, birthdays, and so on, just to be there to work. So yeah, that's kind of what Path to Serenity took, and it's like a cozy kind of sort of like a chill walking simulator, really. And it's you explore the world and you do these tasks, but it's more about telling that story of what is really important in life, or what should really be important in life, which is being part of your family, spending time with them, and enjoying that. So that's kind of
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. So, moving forward, what are your plans for the future, just overall?
So, release Path to Serenity. Hopefully, Kickstarter picks up as well, and use some of those funds to improve the game through art and things. Once I release Path to Serenity, obviously probably move Rusty Hammer on Steam version as well. And then yeah, just make more games and hopefully build up the studio. Hiring another person would be ideal. That would be pretty awesome. And then yeah, that's kind of the plan. Just keep on grinding, keep on working on the dream.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you seem like they're going pretty good on the the grind so far, so you just got to keep going.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
Moving forward, I'm gonna move into like the more fun questions I've got. I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos, but I'm gonna start here. What is your favorite game of all time?
So right, so my favorite game. There's a couple different genres. So one is Settlers genre because I love strategy. I also like Warcraft, the strategy game.
Okay.
And you know the one that they have those little orcs. It says what was it he said? Oh, I can't remember now. It escapes me. But it's really funny. Like, all right, my lord, or something. I can't remember what that was the human version. And Max Payne. I loved Max Payne. The first moment it came out, the first game, I think I must have played it like oh, and Resident Evil franchise, of course.
Okay.
The horror ones, not the shoot 'em up. Unfortunately, I can't really, which is strange because I like Max Payne. I think I could get
But
behind that, but
yeah. Well, Resident Evil was built as like a survival horror, and I haven't played
yeah,
Biohazard or Village, but and I've heard they're great, but I've also heard from some people that they feel more like Call of Duty than like a
yeah,
Resident Evil game or something.
yeah.
Um, cool. So I just asked if you've seen other stuff because I do blind rankings in my other videos. So I'll give
Okay.
you uh you know a, a criteria based on and then five games. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm stuttering so much this morning.
That's okay. No
No,
worries.
so I give you a criteria, and then there's five games or five objects in a game that you have to rank without knowing what the next one is, one through five.
Okay.
That's why it's called a blind ranking.
Okay.
So this blind ranking, the first one I've got here is blind ranking video game weapons based on how ridiculous they are. So like I said, I've got five, and I'll give you one after the other, and then you're just gonna have to put them at a random spot, one through five, without
Okay.
knowing what the next stuff is. So again, this is ranking video game weapons based on how ridiculous they are. And if I name it and you don't know what it is, I'll tell you what it is, because hopefully. So the first thing is the Sheepinator from Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
That
Uh,
turns. Do you now know what that one is?
no.
The
Uh,
Sheepinator from Ratchet. See, I should have picked a different one. That basically, so Ratchet and Clank's a PlayStation platformer, and the Sheepinator will, when you shoot somebody, it turns them into a sheep.
I'll go on how silly it is. I'll go with a one being the silliest and five
Yeah,
the yeah, yeah, okay. I'll go with a two.
it's two.
Yeah,
The
playing
next
the
one, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna play defensively here in case the next one is
The next one is the Fat Man from Fallout.
okay.
Do you know what the Fat
Uh,
Man is?
yes, I think so, yeah.
Okay,
Um I'll go with a three.
three.
Okay,
Then you've got the Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts.
okay. Uh yeah, four. I'll
Four,
go there. That's a pretty awesome blade.
right? Then you've got the ray gun from Call of Duty.
I'll go with five because that's a pretty
Five.
awesome. I love that weapon every time I put some zombies with it.
So the number one is the portal gun from
Portal.
Portal.
Okay, probably not adequate, but we'll go.
So
Have to live with
it
your choices.
yeah, so the first weapon's the portal gun, second weapon's Sheepnator, the Fat Man, the Keyblade, then the ray gun. So uh, seems pretty. Oh, it seems like a decent list to me.
Yeah.
So I've got one other blind ranking here. So
Okay.
you're going to be blind ranking video game enemies based on how annoying they are. So one being most annoying, five being least annoying.
Okay.
S- So first you've got mud crabs from the Elder Scrolls series.
Ooh. Um, we'll go with two again.
Two.
Yeah.
Now, then you've got mimics from the Dark Souls series.
Probably one then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dark Souls has been I love to watch people play Dark Souls, but it's not been a game because I know that if I play that, I'd probably get super annoyed with it. But
Yeah.
I love to watch people play and get super angry when they lose.
Um, uh, After beating Elden Ring, something just like clicked in my head, and I just stopped getting mad at the Souls games.
Yeah.
So your next enemy are creepers from Minecraft.
Oh my God. Yeah, three for sure.
Three?
They just go behind you. You never see them, and then before you know, your whole half a house blows up, and you're like, I spent days on this, days.
You've got the flood from Halo.
Oh, I'm guilty. I've never played Halo, so I'll go with four. I don't know. Sorry.
That's good. Then your fifth one are the ghosts from Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, those are okay. They're
D-
kind of like, yeah. I mean, you always want to eat them, but they just kind of flicker too fast, and then before you know, you're dead.
Yeah. You spend like the whole time trying to get to one and
Yeah.
then it's gone. So you've got mimics at one, mud crabs at two, creepers at three, flood at four, ghosts at five. I think that's a pretty decent list. I probably would have creepers a little bit further up, but
Yeah.
um those are it for the blind rankings. I've only got one last question before we're
Okay.
all done here. And is there anything that you'd like to add before we head off?
No, I just want to say thank you very much. This was awesome.
Awesome,
Really
no
enjoyed it.
problem. I'm glad that you were able to come on. So again, everybody, this was Silv Suave with Ludus Pax Studios. Rise of the Village Hero is his first commercial release. Looking forward to see what you do in the future, and I'll definitely you know stay up to date with everything that you do. Thanks for coming on, man.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No
Cheers.
problem.